So welcome along and welcome to Kevin Salmon, Liam Barrett and Stuart Headley, three of a growing wing foiling fraternity. First things first, Kevin, team captain.
Thank you.
What is wing foiling?
Well, wing foiling, it's a sport, it's a foiling sport. In other words, it's a sport where you use a hydrofoil to be able to plane across the water. And you use a wing to power you along. So that would be your engine, the actual wing we have over here. And the foil is what lifts you out of the water and creates the speed and the lift necessary for you to be able to glide over the water.
So Liam, anyone thinking that's more or less windsurfing, how does it compare and contrast to something like windsurfing, which is a sport that has been around a lot longer?
Well, in the sense that this has become a more hybrid sport between kiting and windsurfing. You could almost put them two together.
Okay.
Hence why this was born.
And this is only like, what, 4, 5, 6 years old? I mean, it's a baby.
Commercially, it's been out for about 4 years, I would say, yeah. It's a rapid growing sport.
When and how did you get into wing foiling?
So, I showed up here once with all the gear, no idea, right?
Classic.
I thought it was a good idea. I was once sat down in Tarifa and it came to me. I saw one person on it. I thought, wow, it's like riding on a magic carpet. So I said, cool.
At that point, you were a windsurfer. Were you into other water sports? Or?
Prior to wing foiling, I was a surfer.
Okay.
Yeah. And as a result, I bought the gear and showed up here and met with Kevin one day.
And now you have all the gear and some idea, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Getting there.
Yep.
Stuart, we all know you for e-bikes. So talk to us about, well, as an e-biker, what it was like moving over to wing foiling. Are there any similarities whatsoever?
Well, in that both disciplines are very much eco-friendly. You know, here with the wing foil, we're harnessing the wind for our power. There is an electric foil that we moved into trying to innovate into a new sector for Gibraltar. So we're the first people to bring e-foils and selling them and using them here in Gibraltar. And as the guys say, it's very much an evolution. The wing foil is an evolution from those other personal wind sports. I mean, you've got Kevin Salmon here, who's like a legendary windsurfing champion of Gibraltar, who has progressed from windsurfing. He's a shy sort, yeah, humble guy, but 40 years from windsurfing, kite surfing, and now very much cutting edge and leading the way here in Gibraltar with the wing foil.
So tell us, just to explain, that the e-foiling is typical of what a beginner would use, right?
Yeah. So the beauty with the e-foil is you don't need any wind. In fact, less wind, the better to begin with. Nice flat water, and that's what Western Beach is absolutely perfect for. So you don't need the wind. Obviously, the holding onto a wing adds an extra element. If you're just controlling your power with a remote control and an electric motor, you're making a lot more progress, getting up onto the foil a lot easier. In fact, the manufacturers suggest between 2 and 6 hours you're up and foiling, whereas for some people, myself included, getting up on the foil with a wing took a considerably lot longer than that. Yeah. So it's a progressive step.
The closest I've been to this was a morning of kiting away on holiday, and it was just a miserable fail, Kevin. It was a miserable fail. It was difficult. I mean, how difficult is this to pick up in the absence of?
Right. In the beginning stages, it's relatively easy because you've got a large board, you've got a wing that doesn't weigh very much. And we call the beginning stages taxiing, where you're not on the foil. So at the moment you're just taxiing around. That means the board is on the surface, yeah, and you're sort of learning how to navigate and turn and be able to go up into the wind so that you can get back to where you started. And just, it's mainly navigational terms that you learn at the beginning, that type of thing. Then the steep learning curve comes when you transition from taxiing to flying. We use a lot of aircraft terminology in this sport. So that's where you get the steep learning curve, because you have to learn how to apply the power from the wing down through your legs into the foil and get the correct angle to be able to take off, and then adjust your angle so that you just
Coordination, no?
exactly
Coordination key here.
the coordination needed at that stage is tremendous, because you're also learning something completely new at the same stage, you know. So it's like I said, the learning curve is extremely steep, and the thing is that it's a type of sport where you're learning and you just feel, oh my God, I just can't accomplish this, you know. It's so difficult. But then one day you come down and it clicks, and it just happens, and then you're hooked, completely hooked. I mean,
I hate to celebrate someone's injury, but you were telling me before we came on that it is only because someone had hurt their back, I think, that the sport of wing foiling
wing
was first born, right?
Wing foiling came about. It came about. There were different manufacturers that they were experimenting with hand wings and things like that. But the guy who really started pushing it was a guy called Flash Austin, and he was
What a name, by the way.
yeah, really cool name.
Flash Austin is
Flash-
perfect for wing
Flash
foiling.
Austin was he was a mega kite surfer in the times when everybody was going for big airs and things like that. So that was quite a few years ago. And he hurt himself. He had a really bad back injury. And because of that, he wanted to be back on the water. He didn't want to be off the water. So he wanted a more passive way of doing something similar to kite surfing without the lines and without the dangers associated to that sport. So he created a light hand wing, and he started using surfboards. But he noticed that the hand wing didn't have the necessary power for him to get going. You know, he couldn't get on the plane. So they started experimenting with hydrofoils to reduce the friction on the
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
and lift the board up
Yeah.
to get more speed.
Yeah.
And this was all happening in Maui, in the Hawaiian Islands. And they said, well, this is actually working. You know, these experiments, they were working. Flash obviously had a good time on the water, because, you know, it wasn't
Despite the back.
affecting his back, because it's a lot more passive on the body. You know,
Right.
it doesn't really put a lot of pressure on your extremities and things.
And why is it less dangerous? Is it purely because, different to windsurfing, for example, what would be the sail is not connected to the board, so as soon as you let go, correct me if I'm wrong, as soon as you let go
No, you're
of
right,
the
you're right.
wing,
Mhm.
you power down essentially, right?
Instantly depower, yep.
Yeah. So in that sense, safer.
It's
In a way, yes. Unless the only danger I'd imagine is you'd have to keep tabs of the foil underneath you in the event the board does flip over.
Quite sharp.
Yes.
Any issues with that in the past? I mean,
Luckily, no. No.
but that's really the only potential.
Yes, basically, yep.
the main danger, I would say, is when you're swimming around the foil. So when you fall off, like I said, you can switch the power off completely, nothing's pulling you, nothing. But as you're sort of swimming around the foil to get back on the board, you may forget that there's a foil underneath you.
Right.
So you may kick it, you know, but that's about it.
Right. Okay.
You only do that once.
Yeah.
They are sharp.
Once but never again.
So how big's the local fraternity? I think you might have mentioned earlier. Is it about 30, 35
It's 35 and growing
growing?
quickly, yeah.
That's
Again,
great, man, for a sport so young.
Exactly. I think
And you were saying that it's properly taken off in Liam. You said it's properly taken off in Tarifa, no?
Yes, it's grown in the past 4 years, well, since the sport came out. I mean, you're seeing more wings than you are kites now.
Really? That many? Wow.
And believe it or not, there's another GWA, the Global Wing Foil Association,
That's
who
it.
are competing on a global platform,
Right.
and local people sort of getting involved there as well.
So, I mean, we've all been going to Tarifa and making the most of its beaches for years and years. it's always been a sea, a sky of color with the kites, and then you look down, and what you're saying is that whereas for years it was windsurfers at eye level.
Windsurfers, then it came into kites, and now if you look down at eye level, you will see more wings than
How
you know,
interesting.
kites or windsurfers.
Times are changing.
Exactly. A lot of the kite surfers have realized that the wing foiling has a similar type of feeling to kite surfing, the same similar sensations, but with a lot less of the danger aspects. So they're all migrating now to this new sport.
Yeah.
And
A friend of mine, a close friend of mine, who's part of the fraternity, you know him well, and I quote, he says, "The feeling is amazing. You are basically flying."
it is.
Unmistakably, yep.
Yep. You're flying.
I mean, that's enough of an advert, just that.
It's
You're basically
beautiful.
flying.
You're flying.
That's
Just imagine, you know, being able to
Sells it off.
to finish a heavy day of work, you know, and you come down to the beach if you've got a bit of time, and you can fly. You just
And
get
so-
rid of all the stress. you
And so why Western Beach? Why are we here? Why is this such a hotspot?
This beach is very windy, you know, compared to the other beaches in Gibraltar. The angle of the wind is also ideal for the sport. It's a safe angle, so you don't have very many offshore wind days where if you have any problems, the wind will take you out offshore. Plus, we're landlocked apart from the little entrance at the end there. So if you do have any problems, you can get back to some piece of rock that you can hold on to and wait for
It's a very
somebody to
safe
come and...
zone.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very
big
safe
swing.
zone in that aspect, yeah.
Would you consider doing it anywhere else in Gibraltar, or is it absolutely here?
We've done it a few times in Eastern Beach. We've tried it there in both easterly winds and westerly winds, and
We haven't kept it to just Western Beach. We've traveled out to the demarcation buoy.
yeah, we go out regularly. But this is the beach that works.
Yeah.
You know, it works in all aspects. Even if you're from a beginner right up to experts like world champions like Xavi Kor.
Who we'll mention in part 2. Still plenty to
Oh,
get through.
excellent.
Thanks for joining us on the Sports Locker. We are discussing perhaps the newest water sport around wing foiling. Back in a couple.